Welcome along to Snetterton, everybody. It's day 2 of the GT Cup Championship here on the Snetterton 300 circuit. If you didn't join us yesterday, then you missed the sprint race and then the pit stop race that was later on in the afternoon. And as it's day 2, when we're back to the usual format, it means we've got our pit stop race coming up for you now, and then we'll have the sprint race later on today. It's still overcast here at Snetterton. Temperature, I think, has warmed up a little bit. Seems a little bit warmer today than it was yesterday. There is a chance of rain later on in the day, but for the moment, for this 50-minute race that's coming up, it looks as though we are going to have reasonable weather with no rain forecast. You can see 15 degrees, still a bit breezy, as it always is here at Snetterton, a former American air base, so it does allow the wind to whip through a little bit. And this grid is based on the times that were set in qualifying this morning. Now, we have lost a few cars overnight, some of which we were only ever expecting to compete on the Saturday. So the likes of Tim Docker's McLaren is not out, Paul White at the wheel of the Lotus is not out, but we did lose Peter Erceg's Audi overnight. That had a misfire yesterday, and it's his engine woes that have kept that car out of today's racing. So a couple of cars down where we were yesterday, but they head off on their formation lap. Let me guide you through the grid and the amount of time that the cars will all remain stationary in the pit lane for this 50-minute pit stop, and I'll guide you through the way the pit windows work for today as well. So, as we say, the times are based on the laps that were set in qualifying this morning, and therefore it will see the BMW of Team Brit, who have won a race earlier on this year. They opened up their season with a win at Donington Park. They will start here on pole position for this 5th round of the championship season. So Jamie Folby starts from pole position, 72 seconds stationary in the pit lane, alongside his Felix Livesey at the wheel of the Lamborghini that won yesterday's race, 75 seconds in the pit lane. Row 2 of the grid, Jack Gadd, 68 seconds, alongside Sean Rann, who will start, 95 seconds for the Ferrari. Row 3 of the grid, Frank Morris, 72 seconds, alongside Paul Bailey, who is on 97 seconds when he hands over to David Brabham. In row 4 of the grid, Charlie Benson, 60 seconds, alongside Cameron Pratt-Thompson, who is on 88 seconds stationary in the pit lane. Next row is row number 5. Sam Branston drives solo, 72 seconds. Alongside him is Doc Bush, who is on 60. And row 6 of the grid, Rob Garofal at 75 seconds. That car took 2 group wins yesterday, alongside another car that took 2 group wins, Ian Astley's BMW, on 75 seconds. Then, as we move to the next row of the grid, it's Rupert Williams on 60, alongside the car of Andrew Perry, who is on 60, before we then see Kyle Wells, who drives solo, 72 seconds, alongside Michael McInerney on 85 seconds. Row 9 of the grid is Dan Perry, who is on 68 seconds, alongside Tim Eakin, who will start, who is on 60. And off the back of the grid, with problems in qualifying, 60 seconds for Luke Bennett, if the car has made it, because it was a gear actuator problem that happened in qualifying. They didn't have the spare parts. They were trying to rebuild the actuator that was there, and they weren't entirely sure they were going to have enough time to do so. So we might not see that number 8 Ginetta at the tail end of the field. So that could be another car that is being still worked on, and hopefully, if they don't get the time to get it out in this race, they might get that actuator fitted and sorted and repaired for the sprint race later on. So I'm going to try and keep my eye towards that number 8 car and see if it is at the back of the grid or whether it is an absentee, I'm afraid. So just looking down the shot there, couldn't quite see whether he's there. So it's BMW and Lamborghini on the front row of the grid. Both of these cars have won races so far this season. Round 1, the BMW claimed the win. Round 4 yesterday was when we saw the Lamborghini claim the win. This is round 5 of the championship, and the way the pit windows work is that the cars that run in Group GTH and Group GTA are the first to pit today. They were second to pit yesterday. They will pit between the 24th and the 29th minute of the race, and the cars in Group GTO, Group GT3, Group GTC, their pit window opens at the 29th minute and closes at the 35th minute of the race. And during that period of time, everybody has to come into the pits and remain stationary for those periods of time that I gave you, plus the 17 seconds it takes to drive from one end of the pit lane to the other at the regulatory speed limit. So 50 minutes on the clock, red lights are on the gantry, Jamie Folby and Felix Livesey on the front row of the grid, and we get round 5 of the 2026 GT Cup season underway here at Snetterton. It does look as though Luke Bennett's Ginetta has not made it out, and it is going to be the BMW that leads the way from in second position. By the look of things, it is Felix Livesey that's there in second position. Everybody's safely through Redgate corner. Jack Gadd has had a brilliant start. He's up to 3rd. Sean Rann is up to 4th place. And Frank Morris is there in 5th position. Cameron Pratt-Thompson sticking his elbows out in the gold Ginetta in the early stages to try and keep Paul Bailey's Mercedes at bay. But it really has been a good start from the front few rows of the grid. And whilst they have all sort of largely maintained position, it is Jamie Falvey who is looking to try and break away in the lead of the race in the Team Brits BMW. Very late on the brakes there from Charlie Benson at the wheel of the 24/7 Motorsport Ginetta. Wheel to wheel goes Rob Garofal with Sam Branston, who is driving solo in this one. James Waring, I think, did the long pit stop race yesterday, so Sam Branston gets to drive the full duration today at the wheel of the 25 Ginetta. Rob Garofal can also see that if he looks in his mirrors, he's got the number 11 car sitting right behind him, which is Kyle Wells, who was racing a Porsche in one of the support races here yesterday. So accelerating their way down the Bentley straight. You can see Jamie Falvey still weaving from side to side to try and build a bit more surface temperature into the Control Pirelli tyres. And there's an off for Doc Bush, I'm afraid. So that's the Team Parker Racing Porsche off and on the grass. Hopefully he'll be able to get the car fired back up again and will head on his merry way. But that is Doc, who started down in 10th on the grid circulating around, and that is a left rear puncture by the look of things for Tim Aitken, who is making his way back in towards the pit lane at the wheel of the GBR Stratton Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage GT4, I'm afraid. It's one of the cars that runs in Group GTH. So Jack Gadd over the start-finish line. Started the race in third position, will finish the first lap in third position. Jamie Falvey leads. Then it's Felix Livesey in second, Jack Gadd in third place, Sean ran in fourth, Frank Morris sitting there in fifth place. Paul Bailey is there in sixth place. In seventh place is Charlie Benson. Cameron Pratt-Thompson is next up in eighth place, followed by them the next of the Ginettas that was right behind him, which is going to be Sam Branston. And then finally you get a little bit of a gap before you then see everybody else. I think Rob Garofal will be next up, which would put him final place inside the top 10. Michael McInerney has got his hands rather full at the wheel of the 55 Porsche that sits there in 12th place at the moment. He's got cars queuing up behind him, which is Rupert Williams, followed by Ian Astley, I think it is, that starts the BMW. So it's a good little squabble down towards places just at the bottom of the top 12. So turning their way through Agostini. Sam Branston pushing hard at the wheel of the Innovation Racing Ginetta, trying to catch up with the SVG Motorsport car that lies ahead. Still trying to limp its way back into the pit lane with that flat left rear tyre is the Aston Martin of Tim Aitken, and it's not going to be that much longer before he drops off the lead lap, because you can see in the background of the shot still weaving around is Jamie Falvey, still trying to build some temperature onto the surface of those Pirelli, still not happy that they're not quite where he wants them to be. And is the Aston going to stay out of harm's way? Yes, it does. It drops off the lead lap. I've got to say, Tim Aitken is doing A, a good job of staying out of everybody's way, but B, is doing a very good job of not coming back too quickly. You know, you want to get the car back to the pits as quickly as you can to minimise the amount of time you lose, but the faster you drive back, the more that tyre is likely to delaminate, and if it delaminates, it will start to rip the bodywork apart and affect all of the suspension and the braking. So he's limping it back, frustratingly losing time, but at least bolt a new tyre on that, Graham Brunton and the team, and we'll be able to get him back out. So through goes Jamie Falvey. Lead advantage is now up to 2.5 seconds between himself and Felix Livesey. And the BMW that leads will stop for 72 seconds in the pit lane. The Lamborghini that's second will stop for 75 seconds. There is Doc Bush, who is going again following his spin. Now he lost about 7 seconds over the car that was lying ahead of him on the previous lap. Let's see what this lap looks like for Doc Bush and see exactly how much time he's got to then try and play catch-up following that spin. Now, yesterday we saw 2 group wins in Group GTA for that BMW that we saw briefly there in the hands of Ian Astley, who shares with Neil Wallace. There goes the BMW. Right behind them is going to be the car of Andrew Perry. Now that's the 135 car. They will be fighting over second and third in Group GTA at the moment. The lead in Group GTA will be the number 11 Ginetta that lies just ahead, actually. The grey car with the lighter green flashes to it. So that is heading up towards Agostini. Ginetta, BMW and then pink Ginetta. The squabble for the lead of Group GTA, and Ian Astley almost was able to squeeze his way through into the lead of the group there. So had a little nibble at it, but still residing second in the group. They took 2 group wins yesterday in Group GTA. Andrew Perry running a little bit wide there at the wheel of the Raceworks Motorsport Ginetta that he shares with former Caterham racer Dan Quintero. And as they then feed their way out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight, these 3 cars fighting over first, second and third in Group GTA have got just ahead of them Rupert Williams at the wheel of the Group GTH McLaren Artura that he shares with John Ingram. Now here comes Ian Astley jinking out from behind the Kyle Wells-driven Ginetta and goes through to pick up the lead of Group GTA. And is he also going to get past Rupert Williams? Yes, he is. So not only does he now lead Group GTA, he's also managed to get a Group GTH car between himself and the chasing pack behind. So that is good news for Ian Astley. Now, because that car won its group yesterday, it will remain in the pit lane stationary for 75 seconds. So it's picked up the lead of the group, but the number 11 Ginetta will stop for 3 seconds shorter when the pit window opens. And then the pink machine behind that will stop for 12 seconds shorter again. Only 60 seconds for the pink Ginetta that's currently in the hands of Andrew Perry. So 2 cars ahead, Kyle Busch in the 11 Ginetta, and then the BMW of Ian Astley need to keep cracking on because they'll know full well they're going to lose out come the pit stop side by side through Richie's corner. That's brave stuff from Andrew Perry all the way around the outside of Kyle Wells, but could not make it stick. So they go back to being briefly nose to tail order as they turn their way through the Wilson hairpin and start to accelerate their way down the short straight, very slightly uphill in towards Palmer. And once you get to Palmer, it's very easy to run wide on the exit because it does just very slightly drop away on exit, so it does tempt the car right the way over to those curbs you can see there on the right-hand side on the exit of the corner. So it's picking up the lead of Group GTA. The BMW's pulled away, hasn't it, from the pair of Ginettas that sit behind. So Kyle Wells has got his attentions rather turned to defence and tried to keep Andrew Perry behind him at this stage. Jamie Falvey in the lead of the race, now 2.8 seconds up the road from Felix Livery. Jack Gadd still there in third. The Ferrari that we can see now still sitting there in fourth. That leads Group GTO in the hands of Sean Rann, who shares with Josh Steed. Josh is classified as a pro sporting driver, so he can only take part in the second part of this pit stop race. And the grid for our sprint race later on today, it's well worth mentioning, it's the fastest times that are set in this first half of the race. So in other words, before the pro sporting drivers get in, before the pros get in, it's the fastest time the car sets in the first half of the race that give us the grid for the sprint race later on today. Through the bomb hole, there we can see Rupert Williams still working hard at the wheel of the Jolt Racing McLaren Artura, trying to keep Kyle Wells behind him, but Kyle will be keen to get past the McLaren because he wants to try and catch back up with the BMW that took the lead of Group GTA away from him. So he's second in Group GTA. He's got Group GTH McLaren sitting ahead, but wants to crack on. So over the start-finish line, they will all thread their way. Jamie Falvey, a new fastest lap of the race, last time through the race leader in the BMW, 1 minute 50.184 from him, stretching the lead advantage between himself and the number 4 Lamborghini up to 3 seconds last time through. 6 seconds back from that is Jack Gadd, who's got another 3 seconds in hand between himself and the Group GTO leading Ferrari at this stage. So our group leaders, leading overall the BMW, that leads Group GT3. Second, the number 4 Lamborghini, that leads Group GTC. Fourth, the Ferrari, the 296 Challenge spec car of Sean Rann, that leads Group GTO at this stage. Group GTH is being led by the number 247 Charlie Benson driven Ginetta. That's the white car with the grey and the Dayglow yellow flashes to it. And leading Group GTA, as we say, is that BMW, which is taking the lead of the group, has rather pulled away. So down through under the Nelson goes Frank Morris. Frank has had some good pace this weekend. Number 63 JMH prepared Lamborghini that he shares with former British touring car driver James Pickford, who was one of the front-running drivers in the Seat Leon Championship many years ago, which saw him then graduate up with Seat to the BTCC. He is going well, Frank Morris, sitting there in 5th place overall. He's got 4 or 5 seconds in hand between himself and the 6th place car, which is Paul Bailey at the wheel of the Mercedes GT3 Evo, but that car runs in GTO specification because it's not absolutely compliant with the regulations for GT3. Thunders its way, glorious noise of that Mercedes engine over the start-finish line, and it's good to see Paul back in what is a front-engine rear-wheel drive car, because he's been very successful in those in the past with the likes of Aston Martin in particular. Kyle Wells can still not find a way through and past the Jolt Racing McLaren, so Rupert Williams doing a grand old job of just making sure that he hangs on to the place. So he's still hanging on to 13th position at the moment. Kyle Wells sitting there in 14th, followed by Andrew Perry, who at the wheel of the Raceworks number 135 Ginetta, with its Pink Panther livery down the side of it, still has to settle for what is 15th position, and Dan Perry, who's having his first weekend of racing in GT Cup, who finished on the Group GTA podium yesterday. He sits next up in 16th position. So see the Aston Martin is back out, so Tim Eakin with a new Pirelli tyre bolted back onto that car, staying out of the way of Felix Livesey, who carves his way through and then places that car 2 laps down now in reality. The Lamborghini still continues to lead Group GTC. It is, however, 4 seconds adrift of the race-leading BMW. Knowing full well that Lamborghini is going to stop for 3 seconds longer than the race-leading BMW. Then, of course, what we try and need to weave in, at the moment Jamie Falvey looks to have the pace over Felix Livesey. When the drivers change, is Paul Fullick, who's going to take over the BMW, going to have the pace over Charlie Digby, who's going to take over the Lamborghini. And it's that whole dynamic that we just don't know as yet. So onto the brakes, through the Wilson hairpin. Felix Livesey, who drove beautifully well yesterday, had a chat to himself and Charlie Digby earlier on today. They were absolutely delighted, not just for themselves, but for the team, with what they achieved yesterday. This is the car that leads Group GTH at this stage. So this is Charlie Benson and Ben Taylor, who started the weekend with a difficult result in the sprint race yesterday. There was a very small technical issue with the car, which meant that they were not classified. Now, that wasn't of their doing. That was nothing at all that was intended to try and bend the rules at all, but the car, through no fault of their own, was not compliant with the regulations, so the only choice was to exclude them from the race. So they've been playing catch-up since, and Phil and the team who prepare this car from 24/7 Motorsport will be hoping for a good result from them. And they are pushing hard, leading Group GTH at this stage. And how much time have they got between themselves and Cameron Pratt-Thompson? About 2.3 seconds. So there you can see the second place Group GTH Ginetta, which is the grey car with the gold flashes in the hands of Cameron Pratt-Thompson, not that far behind. Mark Hellman was due to be sharing the car with Cameron Pratt-Thompson this weekend, but Mark has not been feeling very well, so Alex Toth-Jones has taken over driving duties and will hop on board the number 888 Ginetta for part 2 of this race. So they lie second in Group GTH. Now those are the GT4 homologated cars that run in Group GTH. So in other words, it's a car that you could see out racing in some of the SRO championships around the world. Paul Bailey coming in towards Brundle and Nelson, and just having a quick look at that Mercedes. Still sounds absolutely glorious, the noise that the normally aspirated Mercedes make. I've got to say, it's one of the best soundtracks, I think, in GT3. That and probably the Bentley, when we saw the Bentleys racing, probably the best sounding cars, I think, in GT3. They're both normally aspirated as well. So over the start-finish line will come Paul Bailey, running in 6th position overall. That will put him second in Group GTO. Doc Push, after his spin, is running in 17th place, and is also now a couple of laps ahead of the car in 18th place, which is that Aston Martin. But of course that lost so much time early on with what was its puncture. And I'm also delighted to say, I did say that the car, it was going to be nip and tuck as to whether it started, and it didn't start the race, but I can see the number 8 Ginetta is now on an outlap. Now that's the car that had problems with the shifting on the car in qualifying. So the number 8 Ginetta has made it out. Innovation Racing have got the car back out. So that is good to see at this stage. Now problems there, off and almost onto the grass goes Andrew Perry. There is the 8 Ginetta, so it has made it out. So it may well be only just completing its first lap of the race, whereas the race leaders are on lap number 7 already completed. But they are out there, which means that they can pick up a few championship points, and at least it allows them to test the car and check that the gear shifting solenoid or actuator, I think is the correct term, is working. Ian Astley in the BMW, leading Group GTA in full attack mode at this stage, trying to move up to 11th place on Michael McInerney. I think he's going to do it. Yep, so the GTC Porsche loses out. The BMW, prepared by Andy Johnson's SVG Motorsport team, goes through. So Ian Astley, having done a good job of picking off one of the more powerful cars, but of course that Porsche, which is not slow in the hands of Michael McInerney, has got the pro driver Phil Keane hopping on board for part 2. Multiple runner-up in the British GT Championship, and was a factory Lamborghini driver for a period of time. So that car will really come alive in part 2. 65 had a good race yesterday as well. Harry Ewell and Rob Garofal, Rob behind the wheel at the moment. That took 2 group wins yesterday in Group GTH. Well, it's currently running 4th in Group GTH today, trying to hunt down the number 25 Sam Branston driven Ginetta that lies ahead. So pushing hard is the Triple M Motorsport G56 Evo GT4 in the hands of Rob Garofal. Good to see Rob out racing this year. He's trying to hunt down the Innovation Racing number 25 Ginetta that lies ahead. What's the relative gap between the pair of them when they go over the start-finish line? 1.7 seconds, and slightly quicker lap by 1/10 of a second from Rob Garofal. And Sam Branston knows he's coming as well, because Sam has just set his best lap of the race so far. Michael McInerney trying to reassert himself back up through the order. Number 135 Ginetta that almost had the off at Ritchie's on the previous lap, having lost time, is Andrew Perry. So he's dropped himself away from the car that he was trying to attack for that position, which was going to be Kyle Wells. And all of this whilst Jamie Falvey continues to lead the race by what was 7 seconds at the start of the previous lap. He comes over the start-finish line. He'll have a bit of traffic to deal with, which will be Luke Bennett's delayed starting number 8 Ginetta, who very sensibly just moves out of harm's way. Luke Bennett, who's got plenty of racing experience. He is classed as a sporting enhanced driver. So the lead advantage is now 7.8 seconds from leading BMW to second place Lamborghini. And as for the pit stop window, well, none of the windows open until at the earliest the 24th minute of the race. Well, it's a 50-minute race, so we are still the best part of 6 or 7 minutes away from any of the pit windows opening at the moment. So when the countdown clock at the top gets to 26 minutes left, then we can start to see cars dive for the pit lane. So lead advantage 7.8 seconds from the number 4 Lamborghini back to Jack Gadd, who's third, is a further 13.8 seconds at the moment. And what's going to happen to the gap between those two? The number 4 Lamborghini will stop for 75 seconds. Jack Gadd will stop for 7 seconds shorter. So that will close the gap up a bit. It'll halve it roughly with where they are at the moment. Sean Rann is 4th and still continues to lead Group GTO at the wheel of the Ferrari. That car will stop for longer than all of those ahead. That will stop for 95 seconds, largely because they won their group yesterday. And also Josh Steed is a pro sporting driver. And therefore, once you've got a pro sporting driver in the car, it does mean that you then stop for 80 seconds as a minimum, plus the 15 success seconds that have picked up from yesterday. So pro sporting driver is sort of a silver graded driver as such, a semi-pro you could argue. Whereas if you've got AM drivers in the car, because arguably they're slower, they stop for a shorter period of time, they will stop for just 60 seconds if you've got 2 AMs in the car. And the number 37 is one of those, which is just going to stop for 60 seconds. Rupert Williams when he gives way to John Ingram. Now, Rupert Williams has done a good job here on this one. He's catching up with the 12th place car of Michael McInerney. Last time through, Michael McInerney was a 2-minute lap. It was a 1-minute 59 second lap from Rupert Williams. So this is a GT4 specification McLaren catching a Cup specification Porsche. So GTH McLaren against GTC Porsche. Now in a straight line, the Porsche should pull back away again from the McLaren. But through the twiddly parts, Rupert Williams may well be able to catch back up again. And on the first sector of this lap, he was 0.3 of a second quicker than that Porsche. So he's certainly starting to mount a little bit of pressure onto Michael McInerney. 30 minutes remain of the scheduled 50 of this race. Next up will be Kyle Wells, who still runs second in Group GTA at this stage, but you can see the car that was leading Group GTA in the early stages, how much time that will have lost now compared to the BMW that overtook it a few laps ago and picked up the lead of the group. We've also still got Rob Garofal, who is running 4th in Group GTH, still trying to work his way onto the coattails of Sam Branston, and for my money that gap has closed up between the pair of them. Yes, it's down to 0.8 of a second that time as they come through. Rob Garofal did a 1:58.1, it was a 1:59.3 from Sam Branston, so really did close up on that lap Rob Garofal, and if he can keep lapping at that kind of pace, he should be in touching distance, probably towards the end of this lap, to try and mount a challenge to wiggle his way through somewhere. So onto the brakes, through the left-hander, trying to keep an eye on the fastest lap of this race in the first half, because at the moment the fastest lap of the race is going the way of Jamie Falvey. Remember, it's the fastest lap that's set in the first half of this race that gives us the grid, the way they'll line up for the sprint race. Now, the last couple of laps prior to the one that we've just completed, Rob Garofal was slower than the Ginetta ahead, but say that last one he was substantively quicker, so the gap is going the right way. We've still also got Frank Morris circulating in 5th position at the wheel of the number 63 JMH Racing prepared Lamborghini. He has just placed a lap on Doc Bush's Team Parker Racing Porsche, the silver car with almost the Martini-esque stripes down the centre of it. So as Frank heads over the start-finish line now, he can start to focus his efforts on just the clear track he's got outside of the windscreen now, because he is 36 seconds adrift at this stage of the car that's in 4th place, and that car, even if he gets to it and overtakes it, it's in a different group. Now, Jamie Falvey is now starting to catch up with a bit more traffic. The next traffic to deal with will be Andrew Perry's Group GTH Ginetta that lies 3rd in the group at the moment. Is he going to see him coming through? Yes, he does. So the BMW sneaks through. Next car to deal with will be Kyle Wells, who is 2nd in Group GTA. So onto the brakes and start to squeeze the throttle and carve the BMW past that Ginetta. Deal with Rupert Williams is next up at the wheel of the McLaren, and then Michael McInerney might just have to wait until possibly the exit of Ritchie's to carve its way past the Porsche. Flash of the lights from Jamie Falvey, and then as they exit Ritchie's, he works the BMW up to the right hand side, has the inside line, and the GT3 car goes through and ahead of the Cup specification Porsche. We're going to see some pit activity before too much longer as well, because we're not that far away from the first of the pit windows opening. So it is the 26th minute of the race, sorry, 24th minute of the race that the window will open. So another minute and a bit's time, we'll start to see potentially cars dive their way in towards the pit lane. And remember, for today, it is the cars that run in the lesser powered group, so it's Group GTH and Group GTA that are first to pit today. Always on the Saturday they're the second to pit, but on the Sunday they are the first to pit, and Jolt Racing will be ready to receive a rather tired Rupert Williams, I would have thought, because he has had a great race, holding up a queue of cars behind him, not putting a wheel wrong either as well, because when you're keeping people like Kyle Wells behind you and Andrew Perry behind you, you're doing a grand old job, and that is exactly what he has done. The only car that's really been able to squeeze its way through was Ian Astley's BMW a few laps ago, and you can see how much that has now disappeared up the road since getting past. So Rupert Williams not only keeping the Ginettas behind, but keeping the car ahead of him, honest as well, which is the 12th place light blue Porsche in the hands of Michael McInerney. And this McLaren, because it is an am combination in reality, when John Ingram takes over, it will stop for the very minimum amount of time that you can stop in the pit lane, which is 60 seconds stationary, plus the extra 17 seconds it's going to take to drive from one end of the pit lane to the other. So from pit in to pit out, 77 seconds we should see that McLaren. Is it going to dive into the pits this time through, because their pit window has just opened? No, they all stay out there at this stage. And Andrew Perry now looks as though he's got a good run on Kyle Wells. We have got somebody in, and that is Cameron Pratt-Thompson that is in to hand over to Alex Toth-Jones. And we do have the change. Kyle Wells is going to lose out here, because through goes Andrew Perry at the wheel of the Raceworks Ginetta and picks up what will be 2nd in Group GTA. Whilst they're in the process of being lapped also by the car that's 2nd overall in the race, which is the number 4 Lamborghini in the hands of Felix Livesey. So Felix deals with one Ginetta, he'll deal with the other, which is Andrew Perry's car on the run in towards the left-hander at Palmer. He'll remain out on circuit for a while yet still. We can see everybody else is ready. There's Harry Ewell, who is ready to hop on board the car that is in the hands of Rob Garofal. That's the number 65 Ginetta that is now running in 3rd place in Group GTH. So the squabbles out on circuit still continuing. Andrew Perry and Kyle Wells now may be in a different order, but they are still rooted together over what will be 13th and 14th place. Cameron Pratt-Thompson has hopped out of the car. Alex Toth-Jones is now on board the SVG Motorsport number 888 Ginetta. We've also got into the pit lane number 17, which is Dan Perry in his first weekend of racing the GT Cup. So he will remain behind the wheel because he's driving solo. So he'll briefly take, no doubt, a bit of fluid on board, adjustment of tyre pressures, or maybe a change of tyres as well, potentially. And then we've also got into the pit lane, that's 247, so that's Charlie Benson handing over to Ben Taylor. So out jumps Charlie, in jumps Ben, at the wheel of the 24/7 Ginetta. Good to see 24/7 back out and competing with us in GT Cup this year. And also, we have got in Sam Branston, number 25, is in. Rob Garafall is in, and also the leader of Group GTA is in. Ian Astley at the wheel of the BMW is in, and more cars now dive for the pit lane, which includes Tim Eakins, Aston Martin in. Andrew Perry heads into the pit lane, and just behind Andrew Perry there was a further car as well, which was Kyle Wells, I think, heading in towards the pit lane. So all of those cars diving for the pit lane, and I think that probably means that every car in Group GTH, Group GTA has either done a pit stop or completed a pit stop, bar one. I think Rupert Williams is still out there at this stage and has not pitted. So Rupert Williams, I think, the sole car that could have pitted so far that hasn't, but he's still got about another 2 minutes to come into the pit, so complete this lap, and I think we should see the Jolt Racing McLaren in at the end of this lap. So there we can see Richard Taffender having hopped on board at the wheel of this glorious Aston Martin, which we've seen out for the first time. First time, I think, Graham Brunton Racing, who are teamed up with Stratton Motorsport in partnership for this season. GBR Stratton, as the team is called. First time we've seen them in GT Cup. Hopefully it won't be the last as well, because Graham Brunton has got a whole host of experience. Stratton Motorsport have got plenty of experience and are rather based pretty much on the doorstep of Snetterton as well. They're only sort of 10 or 15 minutes away from the circuit. So we're at that stage of the race now where it's just trying to evolve still at this stage. So cars have come into the pits for the first batch of pit stops. All of those that are running at the sharp end of the race, the quicker cars as yet to pit, but they will be coming in when their pit window opens in 70 or 80 seconds. The race off pit lane sees Richard Taffender head back out onto the circuit, sees Neil Wallace head back out onto the circuit, and carving between the pair of them, wow, is Jamie Falvey. Wow, that was close. Two cars exiting the pit lane, and the race leader coming through at pretty much unabated speed, but thankfully I think they were aware what was going on, and there was just a BMW gap into right as he got to the turning point of Ritchie's, carve his way through, but that looked close. Rupert Williams is in. I thought he'd be in at the end of this lap, so good stint from Rupert. I would say probably one of the best that we've seen him have in the last couple of years in GT Cup. And in fact, it's right, it's John Ingram, right, okay, so there's Rupert about to get on board. So that is I think a change from what I was notified, unless so apologies for that. So I'm just going to have again a quick look at the information that found its way to me, because I hate it when we get drivers misidentified. And Jolt Racing, as I look through, Rupert Williams was identified as the starting driver. So he's not the starting driver. That was John Ingram that was the starting driver. So we can only see that when we see the drivers physically about to get on board. So John Ingram, great stint from him. Really good stint. Let's see what Rupert Williams can do now that we've corrected that. So Jamie Falvey could pit at the end of this lap from the lead of the race and hand over to Paul Fullick. It's a pit window that lasts about 6 minutes for the second batch of cars. So is he going to come in at the end of this particular lap? He's built up an 18-second lead between himself and Felix Livesey. But Williams, I think, just waiting for the clock to tick down, and then can fire his way down the pit lane. And as he makes his way out onto circuit, he will rejoin the squabbles that he was involved with. So Jamie Falvey did not come in the background. I can see in the pit lane, that looks like Paul Bailey is in. So I think the Mercedes has headed in towards the pit lane. And also Frank Morris is in as well at the wheel of the number 63 Lamborghini that he shares with James Pickford. So there is a tap on the back from David Brabham to Paul Bailey. And then Brabs will hop on board. In the background you can see the white and the blue Lamborghini in the pit lane. So seat insert in. David Brabham, ex-Formula 1 driver, ex-Le Mans race winner, hops on board. And then he will just make sure that he's nice and comfortable. Plenty of time for the team SB Race Engineering to make sure that this is a comfortable pit stop, because they'll be stopping, of all of the cars that are in this race, they are stopping for the longest amount of time, 97 seconds in the pit lane. And that is because David Brabham is classified as a pro racing driver, so that means that where he's teamed up with a sporting driver, it's 85 seconds as a bare minimum in the pit lane. Plus they finished second in Group GTO yesterday, so they picked up an extra 12 success seconds, so the two together, 97 seconds stationary. So Jamie Falvey still continues out there at the moment and leading. Over the start finish line comes 247, which is now in the hands of Ben Taylor. This is the car that leads Group GTH still. It was leading before the pit stops, it still continues to lead after them as well. And this would be a good return for the team, who, say, had their troubles yesterday, not through any fault of their own, but to start today with a win in Group GTH would be a great thing to do. And they have about 5.7 seconds in hand over Sam Branston, who's second in Group GTH. So this 247 Ginetta currently lies in 6th place overall in this race. And then if you look in the background of the shot, there might be a black and a red Ginetta. There it is, that's Sam Branston, who's second in the group at this stage. So the two are within sight of each other. Sam Branston is anywhere near touching distance at this stage, so he's got to keep pushing. More cars have died for the pit lane. The Ferrari is in. Sean Rand hand over to Josh Steed. Also, Felix Livesey from second place is in the pit lane to hand over to Charlie Digby. That driver pairing won the pit stop race yesterday, so they are on maximum success seconds for this one. So there is the fantastically liveried Triple M Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan. So Charlie about to hop on board. Josh Steed exits the pit lane at the wheel of what was the 4th placed Ferrari that leads Group GTO. So it is a challenge specification car, but because the performance of the Ferrari is so much better than the likes of the Lamborghini Huracans and the Porsches that we have, and of course, you know, a McLaren trophy car would also sit in Group GTC. The Ferraris don't. The Ferraris get moved up to Group GTO. Are a very, very rapid car, the Ferrari 296 challenge specification car. And it's a mixture of power, but also good aero on what is a challenge spec car. Usually the challenge spec cars have lesser aero, more power than things like a GT3 car, but the Ferrari challenge car does have very good aero on it as well. And fly-by-wire brakes as well. It's not like a usual braking system, it's a fly-by-wire braking system on the challenge spec Ferrari, for which if you have a road car, a 296, it has a hybrid system. This, on the race car, they remove the hybrid system, so it is just a pure internal combustion engine on that car with no hybrid capability whatsoever. Into the pit lane comes the race leader. Jamie Falvey is in, so Team Brit about to conduct the pit stop, and Paul Fullick is about to head into the car, so wheels himself out. So the car is equipped with hand controls to enable Paul to drive the car, and he's a very, very quick guy, is Paul Fullick. 72 seconds from pit into pit out, sorry, 72 seconds stationary that car will be. We have not had as yet Jack Gadd into the pit lane, so I think he's the only car we've not had in as yet, and he comes in now, so into the pits comes Jack Gadd. So the number 59 car dives for the pit lane, so that is everybody either conducting their pit stop or has conducted it at this stage. So Jack Gadd will come to a halt. GWD Motorsport with Top Cats, car that suffered retirement in the first race of the weekend with what I believe was a broken drive shaft from poor old Jack Gadd, who drives solo this weekend. You can see Dan Brown, the other name on the top of the car. Dan was sharing the car with Jack at Donington, and a bit like yesterday, big glug of water from Jack Gadd. Door closes and he'll wait for the clock to tick away and then get that car back out there. So we'll guide you fully through the order once we've conducted all of the pit stops. The window is about to close in about 15 seconds time. Matters not, because everybody has now conducted, or is just finishing off conducting their mandatory pit stop, as out of the pit lane comes Paul Fullick, and that car will still have the lead of the race. That will all get confirmed next time it comes over the start-finish line. And with Jack Gadd still in the pit lane waiting for Top Cats to allow the clock to tick away, it does mean that Charlie Digby will go through at full race pace on the race side any second now, and that would see him back up to second. So turning his way out of Murray's, And it's going to be a race off pit lane, actually, but I think the number 4 Lamborghini will just about make it. Jack Gadd gets to the end of pit lane and then can remove the pit lane speed limiter, but through has already gone the number 4 Lamborghini, so that will hang on to second place, and Jack Gadd will feed his way back out onto the circuit in third position. He did stop for a shorter period of time, 7 seconds shorter than the number 4 Lamborghini. David Brabham is pushing on now as well at the wheel of the number 28 Mercedes. That particular car that was in the hands of Paul Bailey earlier on is running down in 9th position at the start of this lap. Next car it wants to get past, which will be 4th position, is going to be Harry Yule's number 65 Ginetta, but I've just seen that car exit Agostini, and it'll be heading round through Hamilton and up towards Oggies at the moment, so it's a couple of corners away that David Brabham will need to try and push to catch that car. It will only gain a place overall in the race because it's not going to gain any more championship points, because the number 65 Ginetta, if he catches it, runs in Group GT8, whereas this Mercedes runs in Group GTO, and it's where you finish in your group that net you the championship points. So yeah, he can catch it, yes he can get by, but it's not going to add to the points tally. Jack Gadd also with a bit of traffic to deal with. That will be Alex Toft-Jones, who's now hopped on board the number 888 Ginetta, and that Ginetta is running very bottom of the top 10 at the moment, and that will put it 4th in Group GTH at this stage. Now Jack Gadd has closed the gap, I would say, on Charlie Digby, who is fresh into his stint, as is Jack Gadd as well. He's on his out lap, but it does look as though the squabble for second and for third, but more importantly, the lead of Group GTC is on between the 2 Lamborghinis. The Triple M number 4 car under pressure from the DWG Motorsport with Top Cats. Similar example that sits behind the black car with the green flashes in the hands of Jack Gadd. They are matched for pace. We're going to see a new fastest lap of the race, I think, come in as well on this lap from Josh Steed, who's taken over Sean Rand's Ferrari, because he's just gone purple through the first few sectors, but Jack Gadd has already gone through and ahead of Charlie Digby and has picked up the place. So Gadd now up into second, Charlie Digby down into third place. And as for Josh Steed, who sits there in 4th, when he comes over the start-finish line, is it going to be another new fastest lap of the race for the Ferrari? We will find out very shortly, because I think he's just heading onto the centre straight now and over the start-finish line. Now we do have a stop-go penalty because of a short pit stop, and I'm afraid that is going in the general direction of the car that currently leads Group GTA. That is the pink Ginetta. It's now in the hands of Dan Quintero. It was 2 seconds short in its pit stop. So because you're short on your pit stop, the penalty is a stop-go penalty for the duration that you're short. So you've got to slow from race pace down to 50 kilometres per hour all the way up the pit lane, stop for 2 seconds and then get going. So a 2-second mistake on the pit stop probably costs you more like 32 seconds, something like that, by the time you slowed down and accelerated back up. We did have a new fastest lap of the race last time through. Josh Steed popped in at 1 minute 48.933 at the wheel of the Ferrari, and we've also got, by the look of things, a good little squabble going on for second and third in Group GTH now, which is going to be the car of Ben Taylor, who is under pressure from Harry Yule, who is right behind him. So as that battle continues out on circuit, I think we can go down to the pit lane and have a chat to Charlie Benson, who has just left the driver's seat of the 247 Ginetta.
Just talk us through how it's been from your perspective.
Pulled a little bit of a gap, I think. Then we just felt the car started to go towards the end. Start. Got in a good position. We got stuck behind a couple of the faster cars, but yeah, it was pretty good. We'll just see where we end up now.
And I was going to say, during that first inning, it was a sort of good battle with the SVG Ginetta. You sort of trying to put the pressure on, but you just seem to be able to keep hitting your pace, keep growing that gap. I mean, you're clearly comfortable in that Ginetta.
Yeah, I found the car this weekend. It's like more confidence, and I've started enjoying the car a lot more. Obviously, our paces, we've shown pretty good pace over the weekend, and we're just looking to continue that.
Oh, no. Perfect. Thanks, Charlie, and best of luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you.
Good to hear from Charlie Benson there. So hopefully you're able to pick up on most of the things that he was saying while we try and adjust the levels there. So good to hear from one of the drivers. Hopefully we'll manage to catch up with a few more that are down there in the pit lane as well, if we're able to. So it's Paul Fullick that leads the way. Jack Gadd is just about to deal with some lappery of the car that Charlie Benson has just hopped out of. So he deals with Ben Taylor on the approach in towards Brundle and Nelson. That's the car that sits there in second place at the moment, does Jack Gadd. He'll be really pleased if he can finish in second place and claim the win in the group as well. His best result so far overall this season has been a 5th place, which was the opening race of the season, the Saturday pit stop race at Donington Park. He's not had a group win so far this year either, so that's what's on course for Jack Gadd in the next 9 minutes or so at this stage. Charlie Digby sitting there in 3rd. Josh Steed in the Ferrari with the fastest lap of the race still there in 4th. But remember, the fastest lap of the race for the grid is only based on the first half of the race, because Josh Steed is a pro sporting driver, so the fastest laps are all done when it's the lower graded drivers in the early part of the race that are behind the wheel. 5th place is going to be James Pickford in the 63 Lamborghini. Completing the top 6 is going to be Sam Branston, who will be leading Group GTH at this stage. So let me just guide you through the group leaders then. Leading the race overall and leading Group GT3 is the BMW, now in the hands of Paul Fullick. 2nd is the leader of Group GTC, which is Jack Gadd. The leader of Group GTO is 4th. That's the Ferrari, now in the hands of Josh Steed. Sam Branston in 6th leads Group GTH, which is for the GT4 compliant cars. And leading Group GTA, you have to go down to 12th position, and that's where you see the number 11 Ginetta that's in the hands of Kyle Wells, the green and light grey, the grey and light green Ginetta that leads Group GTA at this stage. Now, the car that had been leading that group, which was the 135 Ginetta, did come in and serve its drive-through penalty, so from leading the group, it is now 19 seconds adrift of the group leader. So they did lose a chunk of time with that stop-go penalty for 2 seconds, because they were slightly short on the pit stop in terms of the calculations. So 7.5 minutes to go. Alex Toth-Jones fighting away with Charlie Digby. Not for position, because the number 888 Ginetta is in 10th position, whereas the Lamborghini is running in 3rd place, but might be locking down to 4th at the moment, because Sean Rand's car, which is now in the hands of Josh Steed, the Ferrari, goes through. So that now means that Josh Steed in the Ferrari is still continuing to lead Group GTO, but has now moved up into 3rd place, and Charlie Digby has dropped down into 4th position. And the Lamborghini, which seemed to have all the pace yesterday, just seems to be lacking something today. Not a criticism of the drivers or the car or the team, but it just doesn't seem to quite have the pace, and so they might be managing something. So Jack Gadd is into the pit lane from 2nd place. So is that a problem for Jack Gadd? He is in the pit lane, but also down there in the pit lane is the driver who's just hopped out of the number 4 car. Felix Livesey is down there with Jay.
Felix Livesey, we're down here in the pit lane after what has been, I mean, not just a great race, but a great weekend for you in the Lamborghini. How have you been finding it?
Yeah, absolutely loving it. I mean, brilliant car, balance is absolutely beautiful. The team have done a phenomenal job all weekend and absolutely loving it.
And with yourself and Charlie, I mean, you've not just been fighting for group on, you've been fighting for overall race wins too. I mean, the pace that you're both showing in that car, it's been absolutely superb.
Yeah, it's been really good. Charlie's done a mega job, as he is doing now. We're leading, so he's done a phenomenal job. Team are fantastic, so been a good weekend.
And obviously this race so far, it was sort of almost an ideal stint for you, really.
Yeah, pulled a 16-second gap to P2, and then just sort of saved the tyre for Charlie best we could, and then ready for the sprint this afternoon now.
Oh, well, perfect. Thank you, Felix. We'll let you watch the rest of the race.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Good to hear from Felix Livesey there. They have retaken the lead of Group GTC because of that pit stop for Jack Gadd, which seemed more like a drive-through penalty for him, possibly. I'm not quite sure why the car came into the pit lane. I can tell you there is also going to be a drive-through penalty for another car, and that is for car number 888. That's because it came into the pits before the pit window had opened, so the information from race control was that it pitted outside of the window. Well, I thought it came in early, but didn't want to say so at the time, because that was the very first car to pit, so it came in before the window was open, so that has got a drive-through penalty. And also there's a stop-go penalty for car number 65, which is the car that Harry Ewell is behind the wheel of and was going so well in the hands of Rob Garofal in part 1 of the race. That pit stop was too short, so a stop-go penalty, but I don't know of what duration. It's not telling me just as yet in the information that I have received. So there's been a few little twists in the tail here. So Paul Fullick still continuing to lead the way. Josh Steed now in the Ferrari up into second place, so it's a Group GT3 car that leads a Group GTO car. And in third place, it's Jack Gadd that's back into third place again now, because the number 59 number 59 Lamborghini, despite its pit stop, has now worked its way back through and ahead of Charlie Digby's car, which, as I say, did seem to be very slightly off the pace. So Josh Steed pushing really hard at the wheel of the Ferrari. He is at the moment lapping 1 minute 49.9, 4 minutes to go, but that lap time was 6 seconds quicker than the race leader, but he's 38 seconds behind. Confirmation that Jack Gadd, it was a pit stop penalty because the pit stop was too short for him. So thank you to Dan Mason for just confirming that was the reason that he came into the pit lane. So Paul Fullick losing time here behind the car of Neil Wallace, the SVG Motorsport BMW. So GT4 BMW about to be overtaken by GT3 BMW. As Paul Fullick comes over the start-finish line. Last lap from him, 1 minute 55.7. He's had a bit of traffic to deal with this time through. That's a 1 minute 58 second lap from him. And what can Josh Steed do at the wheel of the Ferrari? We've got a new fastest lap of the race has just come in from David Brabham. The number 28 Mercedes now sets the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 48.6 exactly from the car that sits there in 6th position. But the lead advantage from BMW back to Ferrari was 38 seconds with 3 minutes to go. I don't think Josh Steed is even going to get there as well, because as he comes over the start-finish line, he'll have had traffic to deal with. And as he comes through, he is 9 seconds quicker than the race leader, with 30 seconds still to close up and only 3 minutes in which to do so. So he's pushing hard, but I still think the Ferrari's going to come up short, because again, there's going to be traffic to deal with, which will be Rupert Williams, who is now on board the McLaren. So we thought it was Rupert in the first part of the race, but I think they must have had a late change of starting driver, or there was a mistake on some paperwork somewhere. David Brabham also overtakes the race leader there and unlaps himself. So that puts the Mercedes back onto the lead lap again, I think now. Yes, it does. New fastest lap of the race from him last time through. He's on his 24th lap. On his 25th is the race leader, but the Mercedes is ahead of the race leader now, so in reality he is back on the lead lap of the race, and he's going well. The car that runs in what is 6th overall, 2nd in Group GTO. The car that leads Group GTO, of course, is the number 85 Ferrari. So 2 minutes to go. Josh Steed pushing hard. He was 1.5 seconds quicker than the race leader just through the first sector of the lap. Now he'll be coming down towards the end of the second sector, which is roughly underneath the vehicle bridge, is where the second sector time comes up. And through that second sector, he is 3 seconds through the second sector quicker than the race leader. So over the start-finish line, about to start the last lap of the race, comes Paul Fullick. And I think Team Brit have probably just about got this right, you know, because even somebody of Josh Steed's capability is not going to catch Paul Fullick unless there's a real problem for the race-leading BMW, or he trips over some traffic because he's just too far away. Now, had it have been a 55-minute race, we might be on for a different outcome here. So, over the start-finish line will go Josh Steed. Paul Fullick's time was a 1 minute 56.9, so he's upped his pace a little bit, and it's a 1 minute 49 again from Josh Steed, so he's 7 seconds quicker, but there's still 22 seconds still to go, and we're going to have a change there for 4th and 5th place, and that's for 2nd and 3rd in Group GTC, because James Pickford is able to pick off Charlie Digby there. Now, I certainly think there is something not quite right with the number 4 car, because it just hasn't got the pace that it had yesterday, and Charlie Digby is a quick driver. Yes, he's still new, as is Felix Livesey, to the number 4 Lamborghini, but they showed the pace they got yesterday, and it's just not quite happened to the same degree today. So, second place Ferrari in towards Agostini. The race-leading BMW is just coming out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight for what should be the final time, because with 25 seconds still remaining on the clock, it's not going to get over the start-finish line before the clock ticks to 0. So it looks as though it is going to be a second win of the season for Team Brit. And there's Harry Ewell, who's had an off. That's at the first corner. That's at Ritchie's, where he's on the grass and will recover. But back to our race leader, has now only got a couple of corners to go through the bomb hole for the final time. Up towards Coram and then on towards Murray's. They won the opening round of the 2026 GT Cup season at Donington Park, and here they are about to win what is round 5 of the championship season. And our third of 4 races at Snetterton this weekend. Through and over the start-finish line, Jamie Falvey started the car. Paul Fullick brings it to the checkered flag. It's the second win of the season for the Team Brick Racing BMW M4 GT3 of Jamie Falvey and Paul Fullick. They come through to claim the win in second place, and a winning Group GTO is going to go the way of Sean Rann and Josh Steed, who are still dealing with traffic on the way to the flag, so they will be delighted with that. It's been a solid weekend from those two, who so far their best result have been a couple of 4th places here, so up onto the overall podium. They'll be properly chuffed with that, and it does mean they've actually won Group GTO in all 3 races so far and completing the overall podium. But a winning Group GTC is going to go the way of Jack Gadd, and he will be chuffed with that because he's not had an overall podium this year and he's not had a group win, so he'll be very pleased with that, coming through to finish in what is 3rd position. 4th place should go the way of Frank Morris and James Pickford, who are just sprinting their way over the start-finish line now. Felix Livesey and Charlie Digby will come through to finish, I'd have thought, in 5th place. And then in 6th place should be Paul Bailey and David Brabham. Just to confirm, the winning Group GTH did go the way of Sam Branston in the end, who was able to pick up the winning Group GTH and finished 8th overall. There is Charlotte Gilbert, former champion in GT Cup. In fact, a double former champion in GT Cup. The Top Cats Racing team, so they're pleased with Jack Gadd's effort, and we're about to see the final car inside the top 6 come through, which has set the fastest lap of the race in the hands of Paul Bailey. in the hands of David Brabham. 1 minute 47.984 is the fastest lap of the race, but of course it was set in the second part of the race, so it doesn't count towards the grid position. It's the time that Paul Bailey set that will sort out where the Mercedes starts, but they finish as the last of the cars on the lead lap, and Paul Bailey will be pleased with that. So there's Jamie Falvey, sporting that fantastic moustache that he's got. He looks pleased with that. Team Brit will be properly chuffed with that as well. Their 2nd race win overall of the season, and what a year they are having in GT Cup this year. New team to come in this year with this new car for them as well, and whilst the drivers and the team all get to understand the BMW, it shows what a competitive package it is in the hands of Team Brit, Jamie Falvey and Paul Fullick, because they have picked up their 2nd overall win of the championship season. And in the absence of Peter Erceg, who was not able to compete today because of engine woes affecting the Audi yesterday, then they were able to pick up their 2nd win. Let's just confirm some results for you then as the cars make their way in towards the pit lane area. Following round 5 of the 2026 championship is a win for the car of Jamie Falvey and Paul Fullick, with Sean Rann and Josh Steed finishing in 2nd place and winning Group GTO. Jack Gadd was 3rd and won Group GTC. Frank Morris and James Pickford were 4th, ahead of Felix Livesey and Charlie Digby, who were 5th. Paul Bailey and David Brabham complete the top 6. Michael McInerney and Phil Keane were next up. In 8th place, Sam Branston, he drove solo. 9th place was 247, that is Charlie Benson and Ben Taylor. And it was Cameron Pratt-Thompson and Alex Toft-Jones that completed the top 10. As we move outside of the top 10, Harry Ewell and Rob Garofal were in 11th place. Kyle Wells, who drove solo, was 12th. And that car took its win in Group GTA. Then it was Andrew Perry and Dan Quintero ahead of Neil Wallace and Ian Astley, with Dan Perry finishing in 15th place. Rupert Williams and John Ingram, who I think had a change of start driver compared to what we were notified, finished in 16th, ahead of Doc Bush, who was 17th. And of course, poor old Tim Eakin and Richard Taffender lost all of that time at the very beginning of the race with a puncture in their Aston Martin. And late to start the race, Luke Bennett, with those problems that the car had in qualifying earlier on today. Hopefully, he'll be able to start the race come later on today. So that is it. That's round 5 of the GT Cup Championship from here at Snetterton. Do remember though, we've got our sprint race coming up for you later on today to cap off a busy weekend at Snetterton. That sprint race is timetable to get underway around about 5 to 5 this afternoon. So from everybody here, from GT Cup, from Butte Motorsport, from Onside Productions, myself, Mark Werrell, we'll catch you later on. Goodbye.